Wicked. Okay, hi, my name's OP. I'm a senior animator in the video games industry, and I'll just go over the companies I've worked for. And I've got a couple of showreels I can show you, and there's some books and stuff I'd like to recommend at the end. So yeah, I'll just go through my experience. So these are the companies I work for. So basically, when I started, I did a degree in T-side, creative visualization, which is basically animation, computer animation, but with a bit of programming. And I got a decent degree to get into the masters in Bournemouth. I didn't get A-level grades to go to Bournemouth first, so I went to Teesside through clearing, but I got in. Then I did my masters in Bournemouth. Didn't get work for about just under a year, 9 months. So I worked for free in London for film companies as a runner. So I was picking up tapes from other negatives. So basically in London, all the film companies, post-production houses, they all worked with each other. So I would pick up negatives and drop them off at another company. And then I would drop my showreel off, because I would say if there's any jobs and stuff like that. So, and my mate was like, why do you want to be a runner? You just graduated from a master's. I said, look, in our industry, it doesn't matter about the degree. It's your showreel, really. It's your talent, isn't it? Your work. So you have to kind of let go of that ego and just go in. So I went in for about 6 weeks, got in touch with an agent through that. And basically he got me an interview, but I messed that up. It was a rookie mistake, because what happens is, you don't get a job for 9 months and then you get like 3 offers at once. So I ended up saying, I'm waiting for, it was Climax, the company Climax at that time. I said, I'm waiting for a reply from another company. And my agent was like, OP, you got the job, you had it. I go, no, rookie mistake. So anyway, 9 months in, I applied to Ninja Theory. There was an animator job there. And because what happened, when I graduated from my master's, I moved back with my mum and dad in London, parents' house. And I was working on my short film, and I was doing a lot of modeling and texturing. And the art director called me, and even though I applied for an animator job, he called me and he said, look, can you come in as an environment artist? But I was like, but I want to animate. He goes, yeah, but I wasn't really good at, there was shit hot animators there, So he said, the art director said, come in as an environment artist for 6 months, and I'll put you in as an animator. And he stuck to his word. I started doing junior animator stuff for a designer, just gameplay stuff. So anyway, that contract ended. I went to EA, worked on Harry Potter, Order of the Phoenix. And within 6 months of that, I started Animation Mentor, which was an online animation school. And then I also, through LinkedIn, I got an opportunity to work in the States, in California, in San Diego. And I was 2007, I was 25 at the time. And I said, yes, I'll go. I didn't know how to animate. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I don't know how. I was winging it, basically. And I just said, I'll go. And then basically, it was timing as well. I didn't plan to go to the States. A lot of it is to do with timing. They were hiring a lot of people from Europe at the time. So what happened is we all passed our interviews on the phone. They actually came from San Diego to, I think it was Trafalgar Hilton, to interview us face to face. So everyone from Europe flew in. I'm from London anyway, I was living with mum and dad. So we all got the jobs, but the visa had to pick us randomly. So next 2 weeks, the HR lady, who's a good friend of mine now, Candice, she said, wait for 2 weeks, we'll see if you get picked. And after 2 weeks, I got picked and I said, yeah, I'm coming. And then after everything was all signed, then I told my mum and dad I'm going to the States. My dad was fine with it. My mum was like, my mum didn't believe it until September came and the packing people came and would start taking my stuff. She was like, whatever. But anyway, so what happened, I worked at High Moon Studios, worked on the Bourne Conspiracy game. That was mainly mocap I did there with Motion Builder. They had a big merger with Activision Blizzard and they laid off 200 of us. I lost my job too. That's the first time in industry I lost my job. But then I got picked by another company called Tryon within 2 weeks. And I was working on an MMO game there called Rift. And they had a layoff after a year and a half. So I was there for 3 years and I had to make a decision. There was an opportunity in Boston, which I look back, I regret, I should have taken that, but I wanted to stay West Coast. But then I decided to come back. I got a job at Sony up here, for Evolution Studios, working on Motorstorm Apocalypse. That was a 6-month contract, and then Warner Brothers approached me and they said, can you work at Lego Games? And I stayed there for about 11 years because I got laid off. I thought, okay, this company seems stable, And it was a bit of a vicious cycle there because we were working on free games a year when we first started. It was a real sweat box. You know, it was all about just making the money that, you know, like you're saying, independent. Coming from Ninja Theory to EA was like, Heavenly Sword was such a lovely game to work on because it was independent. Everyone cared about what they were doing. Then going to EA, which was so corporate, just like Warner Brothers, it's just make this money. Like I made about 14 Lego games. Lego Harry Potter, Lego Pirates of the Caribbean, Lego Marvel, you know, all of them, Batman, you name it. But I stayed there because when you completed a game in January, like say in January, you're developing a game, you completed it by March, June, you'd get your game bonus. Then you're thinking, I might as well wait till November, I'm gonna get a big Christmas bonus. And then December comes, January, everyone's broke, right? And then I'm like, I might as well wait till March to get my other bonus. And then June comes, September, I'm gonna get fat paycheck in December. And then the same cycle. But that kind of stopped 6 years in. So anyway, I left. I went to Scopely, worked on mobile games. I go, let me try mobile games. And I worked on Monopoly Go. And Scopely were very nice because when I joined Scopely, I was working for the Spanish company called in Seville, or Sevilla as they say. Scopely bought that company out. They were working on Monopoly Go. This was in 2022. And a week before joining, Jose from Seville said, would you like to go to LA? I went, yes, for team building. So I met all my US friends after like 10 years. There was a nice little reunion there. This was like a couple of years ago. And then what happened was we went for team building, and then they came and we went to Seville for team building, but then they had like a big layoff as well. But they were really good. They gave me a good redundancy. So I was saying I'm going to chill out for about a couple of months. And then I ended up at Lava Labs, which I'm at now. So that's my journey at the moment. And the games, I'll show you the games I worked. So these are all the Lego games I worked on. The last one was this Lego one here, which was a nightmare. You might have read the Polygon article. I don't know how you call them, Polygon. What's that word?
I got a couple questions.
Yeah.
Does that mean you were involved with Traveller's Tales games?
Yes, Traveller's Tales.
Nice.
Yeah. It's not as nice as it sounds, mate. It's not as glamorous as it sounds.
Skywalker Saga, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Which is here. So these are the non-Lego games I worked on. This is the Hogwarts one.
Oh, that one.
I love that game.
Do you like that, yeah? Sick of that game.
It does get that way.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, Motorstorm.
Yeah. It looks too much into the uncanny valley area.
Yeah. I've never played. I just test my animations. I don't even play the game. You get so sick of it. With Harry, I'm so sick of Harry Potter. Every time I'm testing him in Lego and he can't do something, he keeps looking at the camera and going, and that's all I think of Harry Potter. Like, Lego bricks everywhere, you know. This is my showreel of my animation so far. I'll talk through it. This is just like a fan art. This is like a free hit combo. These are just some animations.
It's like cell shade, that one.
Oh, thank you, mate. This is like from 12 years ago when I worked at Rift in San Diego, Tryon. So these are the type of animations we did, like this is just a little 3D prime rig I found. So sometimes I do little tests like this.
There'll be a nightmare to transform into a car, though.
Yeah, well, you get special rigs for that. This is a Lego creature I got to work on, which is really cool. Instead of working on the little minifigs all the time, you'd have minifigs, big figs, and creatures. Sorry, mate.
I'm kind of surprised how even now modern Lego games still have such a smooth framework with Lego figures, which I feel like they should take inspiration from the Lego movies, where it has less frame rates. Yeah. Which probably be easier for developers, and honestly fits the whole stop motion thing as well.
But have you seen Horizon? Horizon's Lego game. It came out. The trailer came out today from Gorilla. Really good. And the background is all Lego too. We never did that.
It's always weird why they always have like realistic backgrounds.
Yeah. It's so good. It looks so good.
I have with Gorilla.
Gorillas,
They are a phenomenal company.
Oh, they're brilliant, man.
Absolutely love them.
Well, one of my lead animators worked there. SAE, he was at Fire Sprite, but he's at Spliced now. This was from Animation Mentor. This is a student showreel I did. I had to show weight there.
So you were involved with both Hogwarts Legacy and the Skywalker Saga.
Hogwarts was a little bit, not too much, just mocap. Yeah.
Which were you involved in?
Sorry.
Skywalker Saga.
Sorry?
How much were you involved in?
Just a little bit of it was very much clean up. And that's why I left. I'm a keyframe animator. I didn't want to do motion capture, to be honest. You know, I wasn't.
Companies, they just want to spam as much content as possible.
Yeah.
Some of them, you just dump it onto a game service like Game Pass.
Yeah. I mean, they were farming out a lot of work everywhere, man, by the end.
Anymore, it's all just microtransactions, realism.
But what it is,
frames per second.
yeah, but God of War, Horizon, the reason they do so well is they have such a big machine behind them, right? They got Sony, they got Microsoft. It's like the music industry. When you got massive machines behind you that can market your work, even Warner Brothers, it's going to be a success.
You've ever played safe and try something new?
Well,
With that much money.
see, off that though, Guerrilla, personally, I think the reason why they are so good at what they do is because they do listen to their staff. The Horizon Forbidden West, I think is the new one. One of the transport systems that they've implemented was actually my suggestion back in 2017 that they put in. They just sent out a message. I was QA for a PlayStation at the time.
Yeah.
They sent out a message and were like, does anyone have any ideas for if we were able to do a second one? And I was like, yeah, let's do this. I think it was the birds.
You should have got some credit for that, man.
Well,
where's your email? Have you got it? Your suggestion? No, you need to, man.
It was an email. It was like a team. It was like a Skype message. We were all just in a big chat.
You got to find that history, chat history, right?
We'll find a company else there.
Yeah, but I mean, did they get these games are Hollywood budget, 60 million, you know? And by the end, I remember by the end of I had a few friends who were working on freelance with God of War. They said Sony was just throwing money at all these people to get the cutscenes done, you know? It's just, you can, when you got the money. But I do get that a big company that comes in, they can interfere a lot. So for them to let Guerrilla do what they want, they trusted them, isn't it? And obviously Sony as well, they trusted them. So they have a proven track record. But I found a really old show reel here. This is like a Motorstorm. This is when I was doing environment art. So I paused it, you'll see it in it. I'll pause it, it'll show you like where I've done all the environment art. So this is when I was more coming back from the States. Yeah, it's fun. This was a fun game to test, man. I actually loved, let's test it, I'm gonna race. So it was quite good.
This was my favourite Motorstorm, by the way.
No, probably, thank you, mate. Yeah, there was some good talent on this game, man. So it's just basically environment art I was doing on this. Buildings, rubble. Because I had to get game footage, I couldn't find my Maya files. It was like 12, 15 years ago.
Is the destruction of the buildings animation or is it procedural?
That's keyframe, yeah. That was all hand keyed. They were just broken up, and then I just animated, just moved the centers around and animate how you want. But yeah, that was a fun game. So this is what some of the animations I did at the company. Now I can't show too much, but this stuff because it's come out.
That little bunny character.
Yeah, her name's Dee Dee.
What's the concept of this game there? This looks interesting.
It's basically like a race game where you're racing each other's players, and you can collect these gears and try and beat them and go, I beat you, mate. You know, like just all that. It's like Fortnite with getting more gears. And
you race on foot on a vehicle?
There's some vehicle gears you can get. I couldn't put them in it. Like this animal, you can ride this animal too, like the wolf and the rhino.
I kind of wish there were more like racing games with the characters on foot.
Yeah, well, that could be your new company, mate. You could make that. No, it's good. You got those ideas. You might have to set it up now, man. You know how to set a company up. Yeah. Sorry, these are books I was wanting to recommend. The War on Art. You know, as animators, as artists, you know, is discipline. You know, we need to hone in on our crafts to get jobs, basically. We need to really... When I started in 2005, it was very easy to get in as I wouldn't say mediocre animations, but low-level animation. 2005, even though Ninja Theory had really good animators, they were brilliant. But you could get away with like okay animation. But now, because there's so many good animation schools out there and just good courses out there, the graduates that are coming out are really good, you know. So that talks more about, like as artists, we will always resist of doing our work sometimes, have to fight that resistance all the time. And that's where the discipline kicks in. Mastery is really good. Robert Greene, that's similar, talks about all the great masters, Leonardo not DiCaprio, Da Vinci. He's a good actor. He hones in on his craft, especially when he started working with Scorsese, mate, he got even better. 48 Laws of Power is this book is really good. This book gets a lot of stick for, basically it talks about all the dirty tricks people play on you in the game, in work, politics. We don't talk about this. And, unfortunately, there's people who play the game and there's people who don't. It's this guy, Robert Greene, he worked around the whole world, and he went in Hollywood, and he would just see how all these people are playing games with each other, like coming out of auditions and then talking crap about another person who's going in for audition, all these, And the last one is really good. Rick Rubin, he's a producer for the great artists like Eminem and all these other rock artists. And he has it's called A Creative Act. And it's just a nice read. He talks about like creativity and how you get into that flow state and how you let stuff come to you as well and not trying to chase things too much. As artists, when you kind of break it down to a science, that can be a bit dangerous too. It's like, as artists, we go more with feeling, isn't it? And is there a pull towards some idea, and does it feel right? Especially as animators, does this feel right? But then having said that, making games is a beautiful collaboration of art and science as well, isn't it? So, so Drawn to Life, these are really good. So Walt Stansfield, a lot of people said he could teach really well. So he talks about gesture drawing and how to get that essence of that pose through these books, which is really good. Animals and human. All right, this is more like agencies and stuff when you start to apply for jobs. So, you'll have all these slides, but basically these are the most common agencies where if you want to start registering, a lot of these agencies have graduate programs which help you get in. Aardvark, I know a person personally there who got me the job at Lava Labs, Jordan. So if you guys if you get my contacts, whichever way you want, you can always give me your work and I can forward it to him, at least get it pushed to him, Networking you were talking about, is really important, I was recently just developed, I recommend you all go there. It's really good, man. They have an expo for 2 days where you can go and talk to companies, and they have all these freebies you get as well. So it's always good. Everyone goes for that, really. Animax from Middlesbrough, I remember when that first started. The first Animax was when I was back in 2000. That's when it started. GDC, I used to go to GDC when I lived in San Diego. I used to go Comic-Con every year because it was right near me, like half an hour away from where I lived there. You'd get a free pass and a free guest pass because you're in the industry. So that's really good. What else? GDC, San Francisco, I used to go there, Game Development Conference. E3, which is stopped now, but that used to announce all the consoles that would come out. SIGGRAPH is another one. I don't know if they do SIGGRAPH now, but Annecy in France, Bradford Film Festival, there's Manchester Film Animation Festival. These are all good for networking. So really try and go to all the events you can, any mixers. So one thing about the States, they always had something happening every week, like in terms of like gaming or something. There was even LA or even in San Diego, San Francisco, there was a good networking. They were called the mixers there. So, I'd definitely recommend, doing that. I know we have social media and that's a good way of networking too, but you know what, when you meet people, it's just different. When you meet them in person, they get that vibe. And there's something else I wanted to say to you. Question asked. There's something else I wanted to mention to you. I started my YouTube channel 3 years ago, and I got a job through that because 2 years ago I went on a fitness journey, and the CEO of this company saw that transformation I did, and it's through that he hired me because he said, "Look, this guy's got discipline. He's already a good animator. He's disciplined. We need people like that." Obviously what you saw made him think, "All right, this guy, he's follows a goal and does it," kind of thing, isn't it? So. What's the first thing employees do? What's the first thing you do when you see someone's name? You Google it, don't you? That's exactly what the interviewers are doing. They're Googling your name. So if you can have something out there that shows your personality, half of the interview's done. Because if you get called out for an interview and you pass the animation test or an art test or whatever, you've more or less got the job. They really want to see if you can fit into the culture of the company, that's all. And if you can take orders, feedback, not orders, but constructive, critical feedback, basically. That's what they're looking for. So just keep that ego in check, man, is what I heard. Because when you're young, the thing is, the challenge of the youth is you're trying not to get caught up in the ego, but it's very hard because you're young, you want to prove yourself, right? As you get older, you realize, you don't know as much. When you're young, you think you know everything. But when you get older, but yeah, so that's my talk. Any questions, anything, yeah? No, wicked. No, you.
So personally, I was contemplating joining an animation master's program after this degree, but the industry is changing now, and first of all, what I am worried about is mocap, which of course it sounds great, but it makes me question how it already influences the number of vacancies and the need for animators, and also AI animations are improving day by day, and all of this makes me question if it is even worth going for a master's program for like a manual work like this, or if you should instead like lean into something less manual but more like brain work, like concepting, like directing or something like that instead.
Yeah, I mean, even concept is being threatened with AI, right?
Yeah.
But it's something that's there'll always be a need for keyframe animators. I think mocap is more cleanup stuff, which is more for realistic animation, cutscenes, basically. Like, for example, when I was working at Ninja Theory, Andy Serkis was there, the guy who worked on Gollum. He was the main bad guy. And he introduced us to Weta. So they always work with Weta with motion capture now. There's a time and place for that. The facial animation on Gollum was all done by hand. It wasn't motion capture. It was initially captured, but to get an idea of the muscle movement, but it was all hand keyed. The body was mainly cleaned up.
It was a long time ago.
It was, yeah,
It's
2000.
Probably the approaches are changing now.
Yeah, and probably you're right. The technology is much better now, and it can do it all motion capture.
I think from a studio point of view, like, yeah, AI saves time and all that kind of stuff, but there's quite a few companies who are like me, for example. I don't want to say purist, but we kind of are. AI is great, but it lacks that humanity for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, I think the air quote traditional way of animating will still be required, even if AI does become more popular, because the way I see it is if AI gets super popular, there'll be people who are like, well, we want to stand out and do everything traditionally. So I think there's always going to be...
The 2D, for example, when the first Toy Story film came out in 1995, 2D was kind of dying, right? Everyone's scared of 3D's coming in, but 2D is still there, Independent, there's a lot of independent artists on YouTube now. I think the future is going to be everyone's going to start going independent, right? It's the independent companies, but they also need the funding at the same time. So it's just going to be a fight. But I think it's going to be more community based in the future, where we create communities, Kickstarter, crowdfunding, I guess you could make like game trailers. Like Ninja Theory made a game trailer, right? And they basically showed that in E3, and EA started approaching them to buy it out. It's the same thing with independent. I think you'll put that on Kickstarter, crowdfunding, people fancy funding it. But I would say keyframe, it will always be there, because one of my art directors I was talking to said he had some AI prompters. He said it took me about 75 times I had to tell this prompter to change something. Whenever he changed it, something else would come up. Whenever he changed it, I don't want that in the background. Someone else, the prompter got so fed up, like they don't know artistically. They're just prompters, they're just writing code, and all that stuff in. They will, yeah. But it was easier to give it to a concept artist, and he did exactly what the art director wanted, exactly to the T. Whereas I think there's always going to be that little mishaps here and there with AI. And if you're prompting the similar stuff, you're going to get similar designs. So I think it's a tool, you know, like ChatGTP. I think it's not a bad thing. You can get ideas down and stuff, and you can expand on it yourself. I don't think AI is. I think it's here. We have to kind of work with it. You know, it's here now. It's out, and it's a tool that we can use. I mean, I'm working on a game at the moment with this character, Yogi Kid, and I'm not good at drawing. I said, can you give me some bird's eye view maps and levels of a village in India? And it did it for me roughly. I can take that concept to a concept guy and say, can you refine this? I want this, like this, that. Because I can't exactly tell it what I want. It's doing it generally. But it's there. It's how we use it. I see it as a tool. You know.
As an animator, I know Matt was saying before that he obviously went in to be a pop artist, but obviously got put on other jobs that he wasn't expecting to do so much. Was there anything like that when you started that you didn't actually grasp or had to learn whilst you were in the industry, other than animation, or along with animation?
I started off as an environment artist. I had to learn, that was all. I had to learn the game way of how to do it. Yeah. So I'd get, to be honest, people in Ninja Theory helped me. There was one guy who was he kept saying to me, I'm only going to tell you once, that's it. I go, come on, man, I'm a junior animator. I've never done this in my life. I wouldn't go up to him, I'll go up to the other guy, I'll go, can you help me out? Yeah. So you'll find someone who's like, and to be honest, they like it when you ask them, you know, for help as well. So always ask for help if you can, you know, if you're stuck. The way I saw it was, if I'm working on something and it's bugging me for about 5 minutes, I'm like, I need to get someone, I'm going to waste time then. So I'll try it out myself. But now it's so much. For example, I'm working on Unity now. And if I don't know something, there's so many good tutorials. There's a lot of crap on YouTube as well, but there's good tutorials. And more or less get my answer. You guys are lucky, you got a lot of resources now, you know? Yeah. We didn't have that back then. And I learned a lot of the Unreal through YouTube. You know, Agora have a really good Unreal series on how to get a character all the way into a game. It's like 7 videos that are an hour long. It's brilliant. In the studio, so I was going to answer your question. With animation, with any art, you have to surround yourself with people who are better than you. That's the only way you're going to get better. That's why you end up going to schools that's why I went to Animation Mentor, because I had mentors from Pixar, DreamWorks, Weta, you know, and they lift your work up. So you always got to be around that. I have a friend, I'm going to be doing a podcast on my YouTube channel with a friend of mine who's a senior animator at Pixar now, Neddy. He's a French animator. He was in the same class as me. I was just chatting to him now a couple of days ago, and he said, I was just talking to him about, you know, have you got mic and everything, you know, so we're going to do one. And he was in my class. We could see straight away, you know, when you sit, as a teacher, when you sit, you can see students, you know, which students are like really into it, you know, really. And he was like one of them, man. I was looking at his work. I ain't going to say who. I was looking at his work, and I go, this guy's going to go really far. And he did. He was at DreamWorks for 11 years. He ended up becoming a senior animator at Pixar. But I just used to get I used to ask for a lot of feedback. I used to do animation, and I used to ask my mates, what do you think? And then they gave me feedback, and that's how you get better. Yeah. You have to. I know it hurts as artists. We can be very defensive about our work, and we think it's brilliant. I look back at some of the stuff I thought was brilliant. I go, shit, man. But you think when you're a graduate, yeah, man, I know everything. But it's just the nature of how you learn. It's like that, man. As you build experience, you know.
So expanding on the AI conversation, in your opinion, which section of the industry is less likely to be hit by AI?
That's a good question, man.
And also, like, because I see myself a little bit as a generalist in the field, like, which specialization tends to have the biggest demand for, like, big studios, let's say?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
Producers.
Programming.
Coders. I think coders are okay. But then you can copy and paste the coders. I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I don't know. I can't answer that one. I guess Q&A, the testers, right? You always need testers. No?
Automation there.
I think most of the disciplines will be affected at some level.
Yeah.
You know, you can see that. Even the writers, even the story writers, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we had a Rihanna Pratchett was our writer for Ninja Theory. You know, I don't know. I think everyone will be affected in some way. Obviously, some, like you're saying, some areas will be more than others. Concept, I guess. Character art, concept art. I can't really say, man, until it happens, until we really get deep into it. But there will be some. At the moment, it's okay, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
For me,
so-
who wants to be a concept artist is like I've been looking into the AI and see if it will affect the future, and I still haven't got an answer.
Yeah, I just think in 2030,
Yeah.
I would say in 10 years' time, some people say that all these skill-based stuff we're learning will be overtaken, you know. So, but then I think the future will be stuff like YouTube, man, doing independent work. I think that would be the future because I don't think people are really aware of, you know, there's ways of monetizing online like that, you know. You can I think people will create communities and just, you know, there's always going to be an audience out there for you, someone. There's always a niche there. Like my niche is, okay, there's a lot of animation, right? So I did OP, the fitness animator. So I teach fitness and animation. So I do animations of, you know, like cartoony exercises and stuff like that. And, you know, people like that. And you'll find your little niche. Yours might be with kittens and animation or something. I don't know. that game Stray with the cat, you know?
I love that game.
I don't know. I think that will be the future. You know, people will start to be more independent, not rely on AAAs, because of how they deal with their employees. You know,
Yeah.
So
You know, we're just-
currently, which specialization would you say it has the biggest demand in the market?
oh,
I feel like they would all be as equal as each other. I feel like there'd be companies that would.
that's good questions you're asking, man.
Yeah.
You know what? Mobile games. I would say I was in AAA. Everything's specialized, pigeonholed. Yeah. So they still want that. All these technical animators, riggers, all that. I noticed with mobile games, it's generalists they want. So they're the two differences I see. I don't know about VR, but they're still, big companies still pigeonhole. But then I've noticed with Lava Labs, which is a startup, they wanted us to do everything. I said, I can't rig, man. You need to get a rigging guy and I can't do it. Any other questions?
No.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Cheers.